In preparation of the end of finals, there's a couple of questions that people have been asking me, and so I just wanted to record a video to make sure that the answer to the most pressing questions is out there. So first off, how about password management when we're talking about the semester final? So let's go ahead and let's assume that this is our semester final. To actually modify passwords or put a password on there, I'm going to go to Activities, Assessments, and it's going to have me sign back in again because I left that open for too long. So yeah, I'm going to find my semester final, and I'm going to click Manage Assessment. That's over on the right. And then I'm going to click Edit Settings will get me into the page where it lets me pick Restricted Access. So since I set it up to have it that way, I will leave it there. I'll hit save. If I need to change my passwords, I'm going to go to the Manage Passwords option. So in here you can see I've got my early password and my on-time password. Both of these passwords have been set up to be for specific dates and times. If I need to add a new password, I can click the plus add there. Your best form is going to be to try and limit the times between which the password is valid. So in this case, it's a password that's going to be valid from the 20th at noon to the 20th at 2 p.m. And then I'm going to give a password in here, so I put in this as a password, and I'll hit save. And now we can see this as a password is valid on December 20th from noon to 2 o'clock. You can see which passwords are currently active by looking for the check mark. And if I need to change the password, say this password got out early or this one got out early, I can click on the actual password itself and I can change that to for instance, day of the test. Click save. And now the password is day of the test rather than whatever it was before. So if you only set one password to be valid throughout the entire test, but you need to change it a couple of times, again, you go into Manage Assessment, Manage Passwords, and then click on the name of the password that you need to change. You click on the name of the password, and then you can go in and type in whatever you like this. And I'll hit save. And now that password is changed to like this. So then the next question is how to redate the finals so that they go under the E1 grading period. Right now, as it stands, if I take a look at this this test, it's actually not showing me on this one, but yours is probably going to say restricted access. The due date for this test shows up as, say, for instance, December 17th. Say I had a student that took the test on December 17th, today when I'm recording this, and I'm going to use the same password thing for December 20th and 21st. I'm going to keep it under restricted access so that I can ensure that only the current class period has access to that test. Now, it's my understanding that the last, the due date of this test will change depending on the last time that a student takes this test. That is to say, on December 20th, when a student takes this test, this is going to change from December 17th to December 20th because that is the last date that a student has taken that test. And then on the 21st, if another student takes this test, December 21st is going to be the last date that a student has taken the test, so it will be the due date for this assessment. So the due date will change based on the date of the last person who took this test. Now, if we aren't satisfied with that, we're not happy that that's going to give us the results that we desire, we can change after the fact. Say the last student is gone from my room for the day, it's 3 o'clock, the last student just finished taking the midterm, and I'm ready to go ahead and change this and change the due date to exactly the date that I specify. I'm going to click on the radio button for from December 17th to January 16th, and I'm going to change this date to the 21st at, say, 4 o'clock to the 21st. Oh, have to be in December. Actually, we're going to want it for earlier in the day so that we don't accidentally open it up again. So I'm actually going to pick 10 o'clock and then 10:30. So now there's no chance that any student is going to be able to retake this assessment. It's going to be locked, but it's also going to have a due date of exactly December 21st. So now I'm going to hit save. And now we can verify that the due date is correct here by seeing that it's due on December 21st at 10:30, and that's also going to be reflected in PowerTeacher Pro. Now, of course, since this class isn't linked up to PowerTeacher Pro, I can't show you that it's going to look like that, but we have actually verified it, that even though we've got students who have taken it outside of the due date range, the scores do carry over, and the due date falls within the period reserved for E1. So those are the big questions that people were asking. Before I forget, one other question that people have been asking occasionally is they'll show up with this exclamation point right here in any of their assignments. It doesn't look like we have a example of that here, but occasionally those exclamation points do show up, and there are 3 reasons why that can happen. First off, if your section is not set up correctly for whatever reason, say for instance you have a semester 2 class in a semester 2 section in a semester 1 class, or if you have a section in that you don't actually have write access to, that has been a problem in an isolated case. The last one would be if for some reason the class or the PowerSchool learning server and the PowerSchool SIS server have become detached, then the sync won't work for a little while. Usually that one resolves itself within the course of an hour or so. The last big one, I don't remember if I said the last one already, but definitely the last one that I'm going to mention this time is if you have a date range that is set for a locked date. So what I mean by that is when you have a date that is prior to or a date that falls within a locked range. So for instance, when the dates get locked for Q1, and when we had a couple of people who were trying to sync a grade for an assignment that had a due date set within that date range, PowerSchool, PowerTeacher Pro just does not accept those. It says that date range is out of what's acceptable for me, so I'm just going to flat out say, no, you can't sync a grade during that time. And unfortunately, it doesn't actually give you an error message that shows that. It just shows a generic sync error. So if that's the case, then that might be one of those things that you want to check is which due date do I have set for this assignment. So if you are having that sort of a sync error, then one of the ways that that gets resolved is by having Susan Jorgensen unlock that dating range. The other thing would be to ensure that that date range is set for a valid date within, say, for instance, Q2, while that's open. So if you have any questions, I will note that I am going to be gone on the 21st. So if you have any questions on the 20th, please ask me as soon as they come up. But if you have questions on the 21st, I will not be able to respond to those as quickly I do intend to check my email around noon and again sometime around 5. So um, hopefully that will be reasonably quick. But if you have something that needs to be resolved a little bit sooner, I would advise checking in with Angie March or Lisa Newson or Gregor Ipo in the tech department. Uh, at any rate, they will be able to point you in the right direction, even if that's not necessarily going to be as quick. Otherwise, there is a help section that you might be able to find useful. If you scroll up to the top of the page and go to help, uh, what I found really useful is this Ask the Community section. The community is actually really good at responding to questions in a fairly timely fashion. Um, or if you use the search bar, chances are some of the questions that you're going to ask have already been answered. Um, so it's worth dipping your toes in there just to make sure that you're not missing out on something that you could be getting from there. Otherwise, like I said, go ahead and send an email to me, but don't just send one to me. Send it to somebody else as well, just in case they can get to you a little bit faster. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a really great end of the semester.